Hello. My name is Miss Carla. Thank you for joining me. Oliver, my cat Oliver is rubbing his face on my little desk here and it's making... Oliver, just come and say hi. Hello. See, he doesn't want me to tell him what to do, but he wants to be close enough just to cause a little trouble. And here comes Charlie too. Hey, Charlie. We are going to continue reading Escape from Mr. Lemoncello's Library by Chris Grabenstein. See how far we are through the book? I think maybe 2/3 of the way now. We're getting there. Come on, Charlie. Come on. Good girl. We are on chapter 37, page 195. We have less than 100 pages left. Ever wonder if this could reek any worse, said Akimi. Because it couldn't. Yo, none of us pulled a clunker card, groused Miguel. That means somebody on Charles's team did it. Akimi and Miguel are right, Kyle, said Sierra. This really isn't fair. I know, was all Kyle could say. But it's like in Mr. Lemoncello's Family Frenzy, where one player pulls the orthodontist card and everybody has to move back 7 spaces to buy their kids braces. Kyle and his teammates were back in Community Meeting Room B. They'd been staring at the clue board, wondering what a wailing blackbird had to do with Willy Wonka and the 10 Commandments. Not to mention that long list of books and all the statues. When the voice in the ceiling made its announcement about the Dewey Decimal doors being locked for 14 hours. Charlie, can you just... Well, Mr. Lemoncello better have a good reason, said Akimi. Oh, I do, said Mr. Lemoncello. His face appeared on one of the meeting room walls, which was really a giant plasma screen video monitor. Team Kyle is not being penalized for Team Charles's blunder, he said. Far from it. In fact, you are being rewarded. Akimi arched her eyebrows in disbelief. Really? How? The other team's penalty gives you a wrinkle in time. A wrinkle in time? Said Kyle. Is that a clue? No, it's a book. And sometimes, Kyle, a book is just a book. But thanks to the clunker card, you have the gift of wrinkled time to seek clues outside the 10 Dewey Decimal Rooms. Speaking of time, a magazine available in our periodical section, it's dinner time. So the game is basically suspended until 10 o'clock tomorrow, said Kyle. Well, Kyle, that's up to you. You can use this time as a bonus to think, read, and explore. Or you can run upstairs and play video games all night long. The choice is yours. We want to win this game, said Kyle. His teammates nodded in agreement. Wondermiss, said Mr. Lemoncello. Keep working the puzzle, but try to avoid Mrs. Basil E. Frankenweiler's files. They're all mixed up. And before you turn in this evening, you might want to spend some time curled up with a good book. They just said the book rooms are locked, said Akimi. The nice lady in the ceiling was only talking about the 10 Dewey Decimal Rooms. There is plenty of first-class fiction in the Rotunda reading room. Dr. Zinchenko has even selected 7 books specifically for our 7 remaining contestants. After dinner, you'll find those books on her desk. When he said that, Mr. Lemoncello started winking. I think you'll find the books to be very enlightening, inspirational even. And then he winked some more. And now I must return to my side of the mountain. See you in the morning, children. I have great expectations for you all. Mr. Lemoncello's image disappeared from the wall. Okay, said Akimi. From the way Mr. Lemoncello was just winking, either somebody kicked a bucket of sand in his face, or our recommended reading list is another clue. On the other side of the rotunda, Charles huddled with Andrew in meeting room A. I don't trust Haley, he said. Why not? Charles placed his hand on Andrew's shoulder. Well, my friend, I'm not sure if I should tell you this, but Haley told me she didn't think you were handsome enough to appear in Mr. Lemoncello's holiday commercials with us when we win. Because of my glasses? Charles bit his lip, nodded. Of course, I totally disagree. I see, said Andrew, his ears burning bright red. Then she doesn't get to see what we found in that Anne of Green Gables book. Very well, Andrew, if that's how you want to play it. You bet I do. Fine, let's go see what's for dinner. I'm starving. When Charles and Andrew entered the cafe, the Keeley team was already inside, filling their trays. Hey, way to go, Charles, joked Miguel Fernandez. You guys pulled a clunker card? Indeed we did. However, not even that bit of bad luck can derail our juggernaut. Huh? Said Akimi. He means we're still going to win, said Andrew. Charles and Andrew crossed to the far side of the room to join Haley, who was sitting in a corner. You guys find any clues this afternoon? She asked. Sadly, no, said Charles. All we found was that door locking penalty, said Andrew, who could lie almost as well as Charles. How about you, Haley? Charles asked. Find anything interesting? Nope, nada. Then she yawned and finished her dinner. I think I'll head upstairs and sack out. Really? It's only 8:48. I know, but I'm totally pooped. She yawned again. Plus, I want to be up bright and early before the Dewey Decimal doors reopen. We have more clues to find. See you guys tomorrow, unless we have more team business to discuss. No, nothing. She walked out of the cafe. Chapter 38. Oh, did you notice how many times Mr. Lemoncello, when he talks, uses book titles? My Side of the Mountain, Great Expectations. He even talked about Mrs. Basil E. Frankenweiler's Mixed Up Files, which is an older book for kids. Anyway, I think it'd be fun to go through and reread this book sometime and count all the different book titles that Mr. Lemoncello mentions. Chapter 38. Very interesting, said Akimi, looking through the cafe's glass walls and into the rotunda reading room. What? Said Miguel. I think Clarence just dropped off our books. Kyle pushed back from the table. He could see the shadowy figure of the bulky security guard slinking away from the round desk at the center of the rotunda. He left behind a stack of books. Come on, he said. Let's go see what sort of inspirational reading Dr. Zinchenko has selected for us. What about those guys? Said Miguel, gesturing toward the table, where Charles and Andrew were finishing their desserts. Kyle was torn. On one hand, he didn't want to give away the bonus his team had received, thanks to the other team's penalty. On the other hand, he didn't want people saying he and his friends won because Mr. Lemoncello had tossed them an extra clue. He came up with a compromise. Hey, Charles, Andrew, we're all going to go grab some books to read to kill time till tomorrow morning. You two might want to do the same thing. No, thanks, Charles. Charles stood up. We pretty much have this thing figured out. In fact, I think Mr. Lemoncello steered us toward the clunker card so we wouldn't win too easily. I mean, how would it look if we escaped his library in less than 24 hours? Bad, said Andrew. Real bad. Indeed, said Charles. In fact, I suspect nobody would buy Lemoncello games anymore if we showed them how consistently easy they are to win. Anyway, we're going upstairs so I can give Andrew a tour of my private suite. Would any of you care to join us? No, thanks, said Akimi. Suit yourself. Oh, by the way, Mr. Lemoncello has a real video game console upstairs. Kyle felt his mouth going dry. It's top-of-the-line equipment, and it plays real games, not just educational stuff. Care to join us, Keeley? We're going to play Squirrel Squad 6, the new edition. According to the game box, It won't be released to the general public until early December. Kyle felt sweat beading on his forehead. His palms were moist. His fingers were twitching, itching to thumb-toggle a joystick. But finally, after the inside of his mouth had turned to sandpaper, he said, "No thanks, Charles. We're just gonna, read." After Charles and Andrew headed up to the third floor to play what was probably the most awesome version ever of Mr. Lemoncello's most awesome video game ever, if Charles Chiltington was actually telling the truth, Kyle and his teammates hurried out to see what books were waiting for them on the librarian's table. They found 7 different versions of the same book, the complete Sherlock Holmes. One was a leather-bound limited edition. Another was a tattered paperback. 3 were hardcovers with different illustrations on their fronts. One was a bigger kind of paperback with lots of scholarly essays. And the 7th was an e-reader with only the one title loaded onto it. "I think Mr. Lemoncello wants us to start a book club," said Sierra. "What do you mean?" asked Kyle. We all read the same book and then get together later to discuss it and share our opinions." "It's fun," said Miguel. "We have a book group at school." "Are you in it?" asked Sierra. "Yeah, maybe you'd like to join us sometime." "I would. Thank you, Miguel." Akimi cleared her throat. "Now what?" she said to Kyle. Kyle shrugged. "Like I told Charles, we read." Everybody grabbed a copy of the Sherlock Holmes book. Nobody went for the e-reader. Upstairs on the 3rd floor, Haley tiptoed around the Lemoncello Abelia room. When she had visited the mini-museum earlier, she hadn't really looked around. Now she hoped to find another book from the memorable Reed's display, a little golden book called Baby's Mother Goose, Pat a Cake, which could have been something Mr. Lemoncello read, or had read to him, when he was a very young boy. Haley made her way past the orderly stacks of boxes, through a doorway, and into what looked like a recreation of Mr. Lemoncello's childhood bedroom, a cramped space crammed with 2 bunk beds that he had shared with his 3 brothers. Next to one of the lower bunks was a bookcase made out of plastic milk crates. There it was, filed away with maybe 3 dozen other skinny, hardboard-covered picture books. Haley pried open the cover. Out plopped a 4x4 art card. She quickly folded it in half and stuffed it inside her sneaker with her bandit's clue. Because now she was pretty certain that bandits had, at one time or another, crawled into this building back when it was a bank. The silhouette of Indiana didn't represent the Indianapolis 500, like Charles had insisted. It stood for IN, I-N, the official post office abbreviation for the Hoosier state. First thing in the morning, when the doors reopened, she needed to search through the Dewey Decimal rooms to find a clue that would tell her exactly how and where the bandits had crawled in. A tunnel? An air vent? A secret passageway on the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd floor between the old bank and the office building behind it? There was only one thing Haley was certain of. They hadn't crawled in through a book return slot. Chapter 39. Everyone in the reading room was quietly lost in the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Kyle had just finished a pretty cool story called A Scandal in Bohemia, about a king who was going to get married to a royal heiress with maybe 6 names. But the king was being blackmailed by an old girlfriend, an opera singer from New Jersey named Irene Adler. Something Sherlock Holmes said to Dr. Watson early in the story really stuck with Kyle. You see, but you do not observe. Kyle figured that was why Mr. Lemoncello wanted them all to take a break from chasing clues and read these classic mysteries. Not to find new clues, but to become better puzzle solvers. Had they been seeing things without really observing them? Probably. Reading the story was also kind of fun. Kyle could totally see Holmes' apartment at 221B Baker Street, And the snooty king, and the horse-drawn carriages on the foggy London streets, and the disguises Holmes wore, and the smoke bomb Dr. Watson tossed through a window, and everybody on the street screaming, "Fire!" It was like he was watching a 3D IMAX movie in his head. Kyle couldn't wait to start the second story in the book, The Adventures of the Red-Headed League. "How's it going?" whispered Akimi. "This book is pretty cool. This Sir Arthur Conan Doyle guy knew how to keep his readers hooked." "His characters leap off the pages," said Sierra. "Yeah," said Miguel. "I dig the consulting detective." "Huh?" said Kyle. "That's what Holmes calls himself sometimes." "Oh, I've only read one story so far," and suddenly something seemed odd to Kyle. "Hey, how come Conan Doyle isn't one of those statues up there?" "What do you mean?" said Akimi. "He's a famous author, right? How come they're projecting a statue of a modern writer like pseudonymous Bosch, but not the author who created a classic like Sherlock Holmes?" "Good question, bro," said Miguel. "I need to consult with my brother, Curtis." "How come?" "Curtis has read more books than anyone I know, except maybe Sierra. He scored an 808 on his SAT subject test in literature." Kyle," said Akimi, "I think the top score for an SAT test is 800. "Yep, then Curtis took it. They had to raise it." "So maybe he can help us figure out what's up with all the statues," said Miguel. "Exactly. Why these 10? Why not 10 other writers?" "Why not the same 10 Bridget Wadge had for her extreme challenge?" added Sierra. Kyle looked around the room. "Mrs. Tobin? Hello, Mrs. Tobin." The hazy, holographic image of the 1960s librarian flickered into view. "How may I help you, Kyle?" "I'd like to talk to an expert." "And whom do you wish to speak to?" "Mr. Curtis Keeley." "Your brother?" "And an SAT certified expert on the subject of literature and authors and other literary type junk." Suddenly, the hologram vanished, and Dr. Zinchenko's voice came over the ceiling speakers. "This is a rather irregular request, Mr. Keeley." "Hey," said Akimi, "this whole game is rather irregular, don't you think?" "We just need some more data," said Kyle, "because, like Sherlock says to Dr. Watson, it is a capital mistake to theorize before one has data." "I take it you're enjoying your book?" said the librarian. Kyle gave the closest security camera a big thumbs up. "Ooh yeah, can't wait to see what's up with that League of Red-Headed Gentlemen." "Ah, yes," said Dr. Zinchenko. "A fascinating story. I recently reread it myself." "Very well, Kyle. We will contact your brother to determine if he does indeed qualify as a literary expert. It may take a while." "No rush," said Kyle. "I've got a good book." Kyle was busy helping Holmes figure out that the Red-Headed League was just a clever ploy pulled by some robbers to get a red-haired pawnbroker to leave his shop long enough for them to dig a tunnel from his basement to the bank next door when the librarian's voice jolted him out of London and brought him back home to Ohio. My apologies for the interruption. Akimi, Miguel, and Sierra closed their books too. It was 11:15. Everyone had sleepy, dreamy looks in their eyes because they'd been kind of drifting off in their comfy reading chairs. "What's up?" said Kyle. "We have arranged for your expert consultation with Mr. Curtis Keeley." "Awesome. How do we do it?" "You and your expert may have a 5-minute video chat on my computer terminal, which is located behind the main desk." Kyle hurried over to the round desk in the center of the room. His 3 teammates hurried right behind him. "Your consultation begins now." And there was Curtis, sitting at his computer in his bedroom. "Hey, Curtis." "Hi, Kyle. How's it going in there?" "Great." Kyle's oldest brother, Mike, popped into the doorway behind Curtis. Kyle, Kyle, Mike chanted. Woohoo! Kyle had never had his own cheerleader before. We need you to give us 110% in there, little brother. Mike squinted at the screen over Curtis's shoulders. Who are those other guys? My teammates, Miguel, Sierra, and you know Akimi. You guys are a team? Smart move. Even I can't win football games without help from 10 other guys. Mike, said Kyle, Curtis and I only have 5 minutes to chat. Cool, I'm out of here. Win, baby, win! Mike backpedaled out of the bedroom, making double fist pumps the whole way. You have 4 minutes remaining, advised Dr. Zinchenko. Okay, Curtis, here's my question. What do these authors have in common? Kyle riddled off the list of the statues in order. And Curtis stared blankly into his computer cam for a real long time. Then he shook his head. I'm sorry, Kyle. I have no earthly idea. Really? Kyle was astonished. You've got nothing? Chapter 40. I forgot to read. I was so excited to find out what happened. Chapter 40. Really? Kyle was astonished. You've got nothing? Well, said Curtis, the only connection I can see is Thomas Wolfe wrote Look Homeward Angel, and Lewis Carroll wrote Through the Looking Glass. Both titles have the word look in them. But the two books are otherwise completely different. The two authors as well. Kyle and his whole team stood in stunned silence. Until Sierra started jumping up and down. Of course, she shouted. Your time is up, announced Dr. Zinchenko. Okay, Kyle said to the computer screen. Thanks, Curtis. That was, really helpful. It was, said Sierra, daintily clapping her hands together like a very polite seal. The computer screen faded to black. What's up? Said Miguel. I think I know how to crack the statue code. There's a code? Said Akimi. Who knew? It'll take time, said Sierra, and I need a computer. Okay, said Kyle, who was sort of shocked to see Sierra so completely jazzed. We'll be in our meeting room putting together a list of new Dewey Decimal numbers from the Bibliomania cards, so we're ready to hit the ground running when the doors reopen at 10 tomorrow morning. While Sierra settled in at a desktop computer pad, the rest of the team returned to the Bibliomania board game. We should just start flipping over cards and putting together a list of call numbers, Kyle suggested. Sounds like a plan, said Akimi. She plucked a purple card out of the pile. Lose a turn was all that was printed on the other side. Try a different color, urged Miguel. Akimi flipped up a blue card. Take an extra turn was printed on it. So Akimi flipped over all the other blue cards, while Miguel flipped over all the purples. The purple cards all said lose a turn. The blue ones all said take an extra turn. Kyle had been checking out the red and maroon piles. The reds all say pick a yellow card, he reported. The maroons say grab a green. The grays do the same thing, said Miguel, only they say pick a pink. The tan cards say go grab an orange. So that leaves the colors we've already played. Kyle flipped over a yellow card. In the square root of 48,629.20271209. What the? Said Akimi. Hang on, said Miguel. There's a calculator app in this desktop computer. Kyle read the rest of the card. Find half of 4-40-30. Well, that's 2015 again, said Akimi. And the square root of 48,000 whatever is 220.5203, said Miguel. The King James Bible we already found. Akimi flipped through the rest of the yellow cards. Same with these. They all send us into the religion section to find that Bible verse. Ditto with the greens, reported Miguel. All clues leading to bird songs, warbles, and whistles. And all the pinks all lead back to 027.4, said Kyle. I guess they really wanted to make sure we found Get to Know Your Local Library. Which leaves the wild cards, said Akimi. She examined the orange deck. Find a rhyme for cart and paperbacks, smart and zodiacs, tart and potato sacks. The art and artifacts room, said Miguel with a sigh. Where, Akimi continued, we need to find a rhyme for Randy, Sandy, or Brandy. The Willy Wonka candy, said Miguel. So, said Kyle, I'm guessing the Bibliomania game was only supposed to help us find the 4 clues we've already found. But we need to know more numbers, said Miguel, because a library should be a no place for nobodies. No, and K-N-O-W, no place, nobodies. When Miguel made his pun, Kyle and Akimi both groaned. But then Kyle thought of something. This is why Mr. Lemoncello called our timeout a bonus. He knew we'd need a ton of time to find a new source of numbers. Just then, Sierra burst into the meeting room. You guys, I found a whole bunch of new numbers. What? Said Kyle, Akimi, and Miguel. Where? Up on the ceiling. Chapter 41. You need to look up at the Wonder Dome, said Sierra. Huh? Said Kyle. Sierra and her whole team were standing together outside the door to the community room B. She hadn't been this happy or excited in a long time. Sierra, said Akimi, why exactly are you suggesting we all give ourselves a crick in the neck by staring up at the ceiling? Okay, this is a game some of us play online called What's the Connection? I put up a list of authors, and you have to figure out how they're linked by the titles of their books. Whoa, said Akimi, sort of sarcastically. Sounds like fun. It is, but believe me, it's not easy. What'd you figure out? Asked Miguel. Well, like Curtis said, Thomas Wolfe wrote Look Homeward Angel, and Lewis Carroll wrote Through the Looking Glass. That got me thinking, and running computer searches. Stephen Sondheim wrote a book called Look, I Made a Hat. Maya Angelou wrote Even the Stars Look Lonesome, and Pseudonymous Bosch wrote This Isn't What It Looks Like. They all have look in the title, said Kyle. What about the other 5 authors? Asked Akimi. Did they write look books too? No, they're up there for a different word. Huh? Booker T. Washington wrote Up from Slavery, and Shel Silverstein wrote Falling Up. And Dr. Seuss? Said Kyle. Great day for Up. George Orwell did Coming Up for Air, and Todd Strasser has a book called If I Grow Up. So the 10 statues gives us 2 words, said Miguel. Yep, look and up. So I did. I looked up at the Wonder Dome. There, did you see it? The string of numbers that just drifted across the 200 screen under the Star of David? 220.5203, said Miguel. Akimi knuckle-punched Kyle in the arm. This is just like that bonus code thingy you showed me on the school bus. Of course, said Kyle. This is a Lemoncello game. He always hides secret codes in screwy places. Way to go, Sierra. Thanks, said Sierra, realizing how much more fun it was to play this kind of game with real friends instead of virtual ones on the internet. But we already found the same 200s number playing Bibliomania, said Miguel. True, said Kyle. Check out the sections for numbers the cards wouldn't give us. Everybody craned their necks and focused on the graphics swimming across the 10 panels overhead. Here comes another one, said Sierra, in the 600s, right underneath the floating stethoscope. Got it, said Kyle. 624.193. Woohoo, said Akimi. Sierra, you're my new hero, said Kyle. You saved the day. Sierra blushed. Thanks. The spinner, said Akimi. Huh? Said Miguel. That was another clue. The Bibliomania game was pointing us to the ceiling too, because in Dewey Decimal Mode, the Wonder Dome looks like a giant 3D version of the board game Spinner. Awesome, Sierra, said Miguel. Absolutely awesome. Sierra and her teammates stared up at the ceiling for over an hour. At 12:30, they finally lay down on the floor so they wouldn't cramp their neck muscles. Because every 15 minutes, the animated ceiling looped through call numbers for every Dewey Decimal room in the library, except one. And then the sequence repeated itself. How come there's no 300s number? Said Miguel. Probably because that's the one book we really, really, really need, said Kyle. That Lemoncello, said Akimi. What a comedian. Chapter 42. Peering over the railing on the third-floor balcony at close to 2 a.m., Andrew Peckelman saw Sierra Russell sitting all alone in the rotunda reading room. Andrew had spent the night on the third floor losing video games to Charles and being reminded about how much he needed to break into community meeting room B to borrow any clues Kyle Keeley's team had gathered, to pay Charles back for wasting so much of the team's time on the Anne of Green Gables clue due to his foolish fear of heights. Andrew had promised Charles he'd do whatever it took. If anyone on Team Keeley is going to help us break into their headquarters, Charles had said, it will be the shy girl who is constantly reading. Have you noticed what Sierra Russell uses for a bookmark? No, Andrew had honestly answered. Her library card, which of course doubles as a key card for meeting room B. Find a way to borrow it. Isn't that illegal? Of course not. This is a library. People borrow books, don't they? Well, yeah. Did I mention that I have 3,000 Facebook friends, 2,000 Twitter followers? Each and every one of them will hear what a weenie and a wimp you are if you don't do this thing to guarantee that our team wins. So Andrew made his way down to the first floor. Sierra, as usual, was reading a book. As he moved closer, Andrew saw a flash of white. Charles was right. Sierra was using her shiny white library card to mark her place in the book's pages. He made his way to the cluster of overstuffed reading chairs. Good book? His voice startled her. Oh, hello. Yes. Mind if I join you? He slid into a crinkly leather seat opposite Sierra. So, what are you reading? Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator by Roald Dahl. Oh, yeah. I've heard about that book. Where's the rest of your team? They went to bed. Want to get up bright and early before the doors on the second floor open again. Yeah, Haley and Charles conked out too. Guess it's just us bookworms, huh? Well, it is kind of late, said Sierra. I'm going to go upstairs and... May I take a look? At your book. I've never actually read it. I just tell people I have. Oh, sure. Sierra handed it to him. Thank you. Andrew flipped through the pages until he found the spot where Sierra had tucked in her library card. Wouldn't it be cool if this library had a flying elevator like in that Willy Wonka movie? Especially if you could use it to crash through the roof like Charlie and Wonka did. That'd be a pretty cool way to escape from the library, huh? Yeah, I guess. That was when Andrew made the switch. He slipped his library card into Sierra's book and palmed hers. Charles would be so proud of him. So, he said, closing the book, did you ever read The Elevator Family? No, I don't think so. It's all about this family that lives in the elevator of a San Francisco hotel. And let's just say the book has its ups and downs. Andrew laughed hysterically because it was one of the funniest jokes he knew. Sierra sort of chuckled. He handed back her book. Overhead, the Wonder Dome dissolved out of its Dewey Decimal Mode and, with a swirl of colors, became a bright green bedroom with a pair of red-framed windows looking out on a blue night sky with a full moon and a blanket of twinkling stars. In the great green room, there was a telephone and a red balloon and a picture of a cow jumping over the moon. The ceiling had become the bunny's bedroom from Goodnight Moon. A quiet old lady bunny in a frumpy blue dress hopped into the rotunda reading room. 2 tiny cats followed her. Great, said Andrew. Another stupid hologram. I think she's cute, said Sierra. Hush, said the bunny. Good night clocks and good night socks. Good night, Sierra. Good night, bunny. Sierra took her book and headed upstairs. Good night, Andrew, said the bunny. Right. He pocketed the purloined library card. He couldn't do anything with it right away, not while the holographic bunny's handlers were watching on the spy cameras. But first thing in the morning... Good night, old bunny, saying hush, he called out. And then, under his breath, he muttered, In the morning, our competition we're gonna crush. I think that's a good place to stop. Next chapter starts with the next day. So we will continue tomorrow with chapter 43, which is page 223. And I think we've probably only got maybe 3 more days of reading left. This is good. I'm excited. What should we read next? Start thinking about what kind of titles we should read next. If you have any suggestions, you can put them in the comments. I have a lot of books at home, and I might be able to get access to some more books for next week. So if there's any requests, let me know and I'll see what I can do. Have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow.